Hello guys, Leo here, and this video is a walk through the Git 0x03 project. When you open your project, the first thing you want to do is to come to the learning objectives and then copy these questions over here as prompts for ChatGPT and allow ChatGPT to explain them for you. Now, like I advised in my previous video, you don't want to come to the resources provided by ALX first, because when you open some of these resources as an absolute beginner, it might bring you to a page which is not necessarily beginner friendly. So the first thing you want to do is to jump the resources and then come to the learning objectives, pass the questions here as prompts to ChatGPT, and then allow ChatGPT to explain the concepts for you. Now, when you are done, you can now come back to these resources and you realize that it will make a lot of sense to you. But if you come to them first, you might end up struggling. So for instance, I have some of the information ChatGPT gave me in my Evernote. So one of the questions is, what is source code management? And in a simple way, ChatGPT explains it as the process of managing changes and tracking modifications made to a shared code base. So let's say you are working on a project, you have your source code and everything is inside a file on your local machine. So now what version control or source code management does is that it helps you track your project right from the beginning of your project to the very end. And it makes things easy if you have to recover something that was lost, or you want to go back to a certain stage of the project to see how it was. Then another question in our learning objectives is, what is Git? Git is a widely used distributed version control system for tracking changes in source code during software development, just like I explained. And it says that with Git, each developer has a copy of the entire code base on their local machine, and changes made to the code base are tracked and recorded in the form of commits. So you're working on a project and you are making commits constantly in the project. Everything you are doing is being tracked by the commits that you're making. And the interesting thing about this is that if there are several developers working on the same project, each developer has an entire copy of the project on their local machine, so that in case someone loses their machine, another developer can help out. But it even gets better when we introduce GitHub. And GitHub is a web-based platform for hosting and collaborating on software development projects that use the Git version control system. So now we realize that we are tracking our project with Git on our local machines, but GitHub provides a cloud-based system where we can now upload or push our code to. So if something happens to our local machine or to all the developers' PCs, we can always go back to GitHub, which is in the cloud, and then pull our project to our local machine, and every information will be there just as we pushed it. So you want to take your time and then pass all these learning objectives as prompts to ChatGPT, and it's going to do a very good work for you. If you follow this advice, you're going to thank me later. So just go ahead and do it. When you have a basic understanding, come back to the objectives, resources, read through, and you are good to go. So let's go straight to our tasks and try and answer them. The quiz questions are straight to the point, so try them on your own and then straight to our task. Now, the first thing you are required to do is to create and set up your Git and GitHub account. Now, assume that if you did the first project on Git, you should already have a GitHub account. But if you don't, just go to github.com and then sign up with them. And the process is quite straight to the point. When you have your GitHub account, then you can now come and create a personal access token, which is the next step. Now, to do that, you have to come into your GitHub account. This is my account. This is my profile. So look at the top right corner. You're going to see your avatar or your profile over there. Click on it and scroll down to settings. When you click on settings, it brings you to your profile settings. So what you want to do is to scroll all the way down and click on developer settings at the left. Then when you have done that, you see personal access tokens. Click on that and create classic tokens. Do not create a fine-grained token. That's for another purpose. We'll talk about that in another day. If you do that, it's going to bring you to this page. You might not see exactly what you are seeing here because I've already worked on a few projects, but then you are going to see probably a fresh screen. But what you want to do is to click on generate new token and then create a classic token, not a beta token, just generate a classic token. When you have done that, it's going to ask you to give a description over here. So you can just give it a description, a general description, something that will make you understand what you are going to use the token for. The next thing you want to do is to set an expiry date. Now for this project, I don't think you're going to need a very long time. So let's say just choose anything between 60 to 90 days just to be on the safe side. Then when you're done, just come down and check all these boxes or the scopes. To be on the safe side, when you're trying to do something concerning that repository, to be on the safe side, just click on everything you see over here and then just check all these boxes and then just come and click on generate token. Now, when you generate a token, it gives you this random string. Okay, it starts with GHB and then random characters follow it. Now, listen to me carefully. You want to copy this token right here. Okay, copy this token and then paste it somewhere safe, because the moment you exit this screen, you cannot come back to your token unless you create a new one. Okay, so first copy this token, this random string, and then paste it somewhere, maybe in your notebook or somewhere which you are not going to lose, because you cannot come back to this screen when you exit this screen. And for your information, your token is very sensitive. So for instance, if I leave this token here and someone gets access to it, the person can access my repository. So the moment I'm done with this tutorial, I'm deleting this token. You want to keep your token very safe. You don't just give it to anybody. Okay, so copy that token and then you come to the next step. So when you're done with that, you want to come to step 2 and update your profile on the intranet. So you just want to go into your GitHub account and copy your GitHub username. Your username is the name you see over here when you are in your GitHub profile page. Okay, so just copy your GitHub username and then go and update your intranet. I assume you should have done this already if you did the first project. Wonderful. So it's to step 3, you have to create your first repository. So to do that, just go into your GitHub account. You're going to see at the top right corner a plus sign at the top right corner. Click on it and come to new repository. Wonderful. So now you want to come and copy the name of the repository ALX wants you to create. I already have this project in my GitHub. Okay, so when I enter, it's going to tell me that it already exists. So I'm just going to try and create another name just for the sake of this tutorial. And then the next thing you want to do is to copy the description over here. Yeah, that's it. Wonderful. Keep it as a public repository and leave all these default settings here. Don't add a README. When you are done, just create a repository. So after you have created a new repository, this is the screen you're going to see. This is the default screen for an empty repository. Great. So let's go back for the instructions. Now it says that for the next step, you have to open your sandbox and then clone your repository. Okay, so I'm going to be working in my own terminal. So open your sandbox, and then what you want to do is to go into your GitHub account and copy the URL of the new repo you created. Okay, so this is it. This is the URL of the new repo you created. Make sure that it's set to HTTPS and then copy that. And the command to use is actually given to you in your own intranet. So as you can see over here, the way to clone your repository is to run the command git clone. Then when you are done, you put in the URL of the repository. You put in your personal access token you generated, remember, and then at github.com, your username, the name of the repo, .git. Okay, so let's go try it out. So I'm gonna git clone, and you paste in the URL. But remember that you have to add your personal access token and then at github.com. So you're gonna copy your personal access token, which you should have kept somewhere. I kept mine in my Evernote, so I'm just gonna go for it. So I'm gonna copy my personal access token back in my terminal. I am going to paste it. Just put the cursor on the G and just paste it in. And when you are done, enter at github.com. So this is the syntax: your personal access token at github.com. Then your username, my username is Leo. Then the name of the repo you just created, alx0day.git, and enter. Awesome. So it's going to tell you that you appear to have cloned into an empty repository because the repo you cloned is an empty repository. Remember, this is the default screen for an empty repository. Awesome. So you go for the next set of instructions now that you have cloned your GitHub repo with your access token. Now, this is very important because if you don't clone your repo with your access token, it's going to keep asking for your password when you try to push or pull from GitHub. So it's very important to clone the repository with your access token. Now, if you have already cloned your repository without your access token and you're now struggling pushing, what you want to do is to reset or reconfigure your Git. And I have a video explaining that. The title of the video is Stop Using Passwords. I'll add it to the description so that you can just click on it and watch it. You're going to learn a lot from that. Wonderful. So if you have not already updated your Git identity, you want to run the command git-config-global-user.email and put your email address in quotation marks. Then you also want to configure your username, git-config-global-user.name. Then you enter your name in quotation marks. Make sure you enter your full name. That is very important. Wonderful. So now it says that you should create a README with the content my first README. Now it comes back to shell navigation. Before you do that, you first want to cd. That means that you want to change directory into the repo you just created. So we are going to cd into ALX0day. Now you realize that we are inside that directory. So now let's go for the instructions. The instruction says that create a readme, create the file readme.md with the content my first readme. So let's go do that. So we are gonna touch the file. No, let's not use touch. It creates an empty file. Let's rather vi readme.md. If you do not know how to use all these commands, you need to learn about shell navigation. Okay, I have a video, 40 Linux commands you must know. It helps you get familiar with shell navigation. So open your VI with the name readme.md, enter the insert mode and enter my first readme, the contents of the file you are creating. When done, just exit VI. And then that's it. Now when you ls, you're gonna realize that you have the file inside it. Wonderful. So when you are done, the next set of instructions says that add this new file to Git with a commit message, my first commit. Wonderful. And push to the remote server or origin. So we are gonna copy the commit message and then go back into our sandbox or terminal. Then to add, the command to run is git add the current directory. If you run git status, you're going to realize that you have added a new file, readme.md. Let me clear my screen and git status again. So you can realize that you have a new file added, which is ready to be committed. Then now let's git commit -m with a commit message, my first commit, and then we enter. Then now we can get push to our remote server. Wonderful. So you realize that because we cloned the repository with our access token, it's not asking for any password. That is very important, or else you're going to end up struggling. Now, when we come back to our repository and then we refresh it, you're going to realize that suddenly that README file has been created with the content, my first README. So let's go back to the next set of instructions. So it says that good job, you push your first file in your repository of the first task of your first ALS school project. Now you can check your repository on GitHub to see if everything is good, and that is what we did. So we created a repository ALX0day and the file readme.md. At this point, you can check your code and it's gonna check. So let's go to the next task 1. So to our next set of instructions, we are to create a new directory called 0x03git in the ALX0day repository, and then include a non-empty readme.md in that directory. So let's go do that. First, gonna clear my screen. Then the command to make a directory is mkdir. Then you copy the name of the directory you've been asked to create and creates that. Wonderful. So we bring the name of the that directory and then enter. And the next thing you want to do is to change directory into that directory you just created. Okay, it's very important. If you don't change directory, your codes are gonna fail. Make sure you are inside that directory. And then the next command is to create a non-empty readme file. So we are gonna create with vi. So readme.md. Then we enter. Then just enter a generic description for your project. So you can say that I'm learning about Git. You can enter any description here. When you're done, exit vi. When you ls, you're gonna realize that your readme file is inside your directory 0x03git. Now this readme file is different from the first one you created. The first one you created is inside a repository itself. So when I print my working directory, realize that I have the ALX0day repository and directory and another directory 0x03. So this directory must have its own readme, and then this directory must also have its own readme, which we just created. And that readme file must not be empty. You have to put in content there. Okay. So you make sure you commit and push your code to GitHub. Otherwise, the checker will always fail. Okay. So we are gonna git add the current directory. The dot represents the current directory. So now when you get status, you're gonna realize that you just added a new file, readme.md. I'm gonna clear my screen and I'm gonna git commit -m. The -m represents the commit message. So since no specific commit message was required in the task, all you want to do is to enter a generic commit message. So let's say add readme file, then you enter. Now when you go back into your GitHub, you're gonna realize that I'm gonna refresh. Sorry, I have not pushed. Let's push our changes first. So we're gonna get push. So now when I refresh, you're gonna realize that all that we created is present. Now when I open this directory, our readme file is gonna be inside. And the content we entered is I'm learning about Git right there. When you've been able to do this, you can now check your code and it's gonna check. To the next task, which is coding Fury Road. For the moment, we have an empty project directory containing only a readme. It's time to code. Create these directories at the root of your project: bash, C, and JS. So let's go do that. I'm first gonna clear my screen, and then I'm gonna make directory. They said we should create bash, C, and JS. The command to make a directory is mkdir. Go ahead and watch my shell command video. You're gonna know how to do all these things. And when you enter an ls, you're gonna realize that you've suddenly created 3 directories, which is bash, C, and JS in there. You are good with the first instruction. And you have to create these empty files. Okay, so inside the C directory, you are creating a file called csfun. Inside JS, you are creating main.js, and inside JS again, you are creating index.js. So let's start with this one. This is the path. Okay, so we are going to create a file. To create an empty file, the command to use is touch. So I just enter. This indicates that we are creating a file csfun.c inside the directory C. So let's enter. Wonderful. Then let's go create main.js inside the directory JS. So we're going to touch and then enter. Wonderful. We're also going to create index.js inside JS again. So we're going to touch and then paste and then enter. Wonderful. So now you're going to realize that if you cd into any of these directories, let's say we cd into JS and enter, when we list the files inside it, realize we have our index.js file and main.js file, which we just created. And that is very wonderful. It's just straight to the point. Now it says that create a file inside the bash directory called ALX. The file is ALX and you're creating it inside the bash folder or directory with these 2 lines inside: bin bash, the shebang, and then echo ALX. So let's go work on that. Now to do that, you need to first cd out of here. Let me clear my screen. Make sure that you are inside your 0x03 git folder or directory. Let's ls and see the stuff inside. We have readme, bash, C, and JS. Okay, now inside our bash directory, we have to create a file called ALX. So you can either choose to use the path to create a file, or you can just enter the bash folder, cd into the bash folder, and just touch the name of the file, or vi the name of the file, ALX. Okay, so which should we use? Let's just cd into bash. Now you realize we are inside the bash directory. Okay, then let's vi. Since we are going to put content inside the file, let's use vi. We are going to vi the name of the file, ALX, and enter. So we have to enter these 2 lines inside the file. Okay, so I'm going to go into the insert mode in vi. Just press I and then enter the first line, then go for the second line, and then also enter. Wonderful. So just exit vi with the command escape::wq and enter. Done. To the next set of instructions, it says create a file inside the bash directory called school with these 2 lines. So let's go do that. Now we are already inside the bash directory. Okay, so we are just gonna vi the name of the file, which is school. And when we enter, we go for the contents, which is the shebang. Go into the insert mode by pressing I, enter, paste, and then echo school. Then come and paste the second line. And you can exit vi with the command escape::wq. Wonderful. To the next set of instructions, it says add all these new files to Git. Commit your changes with a message starting to code today, and it's so cool. So I'm just going to copy this commit message, and let's first cd into our root directory, which is the 0x03, so that we can git add the current directory, which is represented by the dot. Now when you get status, you're going to realize everything you have worked on. So these are new files we are about to commit to Git. It's very important to run git status so you see the files you're about to commit. I'm going to clear my screen so that you can see clearly, and I'm going to git commit -m, representing a commit message. Then you enter the message you were asked to use as a commit message, then you enter. So I've committed all these changes to Git. Now let's push it to a remote origin, and I enter. Wonderful. So now when you come into your GitHub account and refresh, you should see all these files displayed in your repo. You can see there is bash, which we just created, and then inside bash we have files ALX and school, and inside these files we have these things represented. So you realize everything you did has worked perfectly. You should see all these files displayed inside your repository. Wonderful. So with that done, when you check your code, it should check. So to the next task. Collaboration is the base of a company. A branch is like a copy of your project. It's used mainly for adding a feature in development, collaborating on the same project with other developers, not breaking your entire repository, not upsetting your coworkers. And this is very important because sometimes you're working with other people and you want to isolate your work on a specific branch so that even when you mess up the work, the other developers' work is still intact. That is the purpose of Git branching, and that is the task you're supposed to answer here. Okay, so for this project, you have to create a branch called update script. Okay, so you want to copy the name of your branch, then into our terminal. I'm going to clear my screen. The command to create a branch is git branch. It's as simple as that. Then you enter the name of your branch. Wonderful. So you can see it says that git branch is not a commit. What I do, sorry, I didn't type the name of the command properly. So let's do it again. So git branch, then the name of our branch, and then I enter. Wonderful. So to see if your branch is actually created, enter the command git branch again without any name. I made the same mistake again, git branch. Wonderful. So you can see that there are two branches listed. There is the main branch and then there is the update script branch. So whenever you create a branch and you enter the command git branch, you're going to see the main branch or all the branches in your Git listed. The one with the asterisk is the active branch, meaning that right now we are inside the main branch and not the update script branch. So whatever we do, whatever work we commit will be committed inside the main branch. But the purpose of this task is for you to do the current work you're about to do inside the update script branch. Okay, so now let me clear my screen and I'm going to switch to the new branch we just created. And to do that, you have to use the command git checkout. Then you bring the branch name. Now when you enter, it says that it switched to the branch update script. When I enter the command git branch again, you're going to realize that now the asterisk is at update script, meaning that this is now the active branch you're working on. Wonderful. So we go for our next set of instructions. So we have created our branch update script and we have switched to that branch. The next thing we are asked to do is to create an empty file called 98 inside bash. Okay, wonderful. So now we are going to ls to see the files we have in here. We have bash folder, C and JS. We are going to create an empty file. So we'll touch inside the bash folder. We are creating a file called 98. Wonderful. Now we enter. Now when we cd into bash and then we ls, we should see the file listed 98. That's very important. Now it says that update bash ALX. Remember we created a file ALX. Now it says that we should replace echo ALX with echo ALX school. So you're going to copy that and take note that every change you make on a new branch is not reflected on the old branch. So when you switch to that old branch, if you created a file, it will disappear. Or if you made any change in any file, all those changes will disappear because they are not on the current branch. To access those changes or those files, you have to be on the appropriate branch. So we are going to update the file ALX, okay? Just as we've been asked to do. We are going to use VI to do that. Enter the insert mode by pressing I. Now it says that according to the command, we should replace echo ALX with echo ALX school. So we are going to change this command. We're going to delete this entire line and replace it with this. Wonderful. Now exit VI. Then the next thing is to, inside the school file, you have to replace echo school with echo the school is open. Copy that. Let me clear my screen. And then VI school. Wonderful. Go into your insert mode and then now replace this line with this as you've been asked to do in exit VI. Add and commit these changes with a commit message, my personal work. To add, just git add the current directory. Git add, make sure there's a space, the current directory. Whenever you do that, you now want to run git status to see all the new files you added. So it says, you realize that it says we modified these two files and we created this new file. This is why it's very important to run git status whenever you add to see what you're actually about to commit. I'm going to clear my screen one more time and git commit with a message, my personal work, and enter. When I'm done, I'm going to git push. Now this is very interesting because if you create a new branch and you just try to push, it's going to give you a warning. So what you must do is to force push. Okay, and to force push, the command to use is git push dash set upstream origin, and then you bring the name of the new branch, which is update script. Okay, I'm just going to copy that command and put it here. So I'm going to git push -- set upstream origin and then the name of the branch. Now when you enter, we'll be able to push successfully. So now when you go into your GitHub, you're going to see something interesting. Over here, you're going to see that this is where you can tell which branches are in your system. So I'm going to refresh my GitHub. And then now when you click on this, you're going to realize that you have two branches now. Initially, we only had the main branch, but now we have created another branch called update script. Since I'm on the main branch, everything I've done is not going to show here. So for instance, I created a file inside bash called 98. I realized that file 98 is not here because I didn't work on that branch. Now when I switch to update script branch, you're going to realize that the 98 file is showing because now I am on that branch. But when I switch to my main branch, realize that that file is going to disappear because we didn't work on that branch. So it's like two different branches of a tree. The first branch has the file, the second branch does not have the file. But the good thing is that you can actually decide to merge these branches, okay? And I'm sure at some point ALX is going to access to do that. So to the next, it says, perfect, you did an amazing update in your project and it's isolated correctly from the main branch. Oh wait, your manager needs a quick fix in your project and it needs to be deployed now. Change branch to main. All right, you know how to do that now. Let's clear our screen. I am on the update script branch, as you can see. So I'm going to git check out main, which means that I want to switch to the main branch. Wonderful. When you get branch, you should see that the asterisk is now on the main branch. So we are on the main branch. We've done that. So on the main branch, it says that update the file ALX by replacing this with echo ALX school. It's so cool. So what you want to do is to copy what they want you to replace. And then the file that you are updating is ALX inside the bash directory. Okay, so we are already inside the bash directory. Now we are going to vi ALX. Okay, great. And they want us to replace echo ALX with what we just copied. We're going to do that and exit vi. Wonderful. They also want us to delete the directory JS. Okay, remember that we are doing all this on the main branch. All right, so let's ls and see what's inside here. Okay, let's cd out of bash and then ls. We have the directory JS over here. So now let's delete by using the command rm-r js. Then we enter. Wonderful. So now when we ls again, realize that the JS directory is gone. Great, let's clear our screen. Now we want to commit all our changes with the message hotfix. Okay, so let's git add the current directory, run git status and find out what you've done so far. Okay, so you realize that you've modified ALX, you've deleted JS, and then inside the JS there was a file inside it called main.js. So that one is also deleted. Wonderful. So now let's git commit -m. And the message they want us to use is hotfix. Wonderful. So you want to key in your commit message and git push. Sorry, there was a connection problem. So it says I was unable to access the remote. So let's try git push again. Awesome. Wonderful. So when you've done that, you realize that when you come into your GitHub and you refresh, everything should reflect over here. Great. No, take note that we are on the main branch. Okay, we're on the main branch, and then the JS directory has been deleted just as we're asked to do. Wonderful. Now when you check your code, after doing all these, when you check your code, it should check. Okay, wonderful. Now to the fourth task, collaboration be up to date. It says, of course, you can also work on the same branch as your co-workers, and it's best if you keep up to date with their changes. For this task and only for this task, please update your file readme.md in the main branch. It's the only time you're allowed to update and commit from the GitHub interface. After you have done that in your terminal, get all the changes of the main branch locally. Create a new file up to date at the root of your directory and in it write a git command line used. Add up to date to git commit with a message how to be up to date in Git. So let's go try that out. It says that in our GitHub interface, we have to update the README file. So what you need to do is to just click on this pencil and then you can update your README. So let's just say something like updated version. Wonderful. When you are done, all you have to do is to scroll down to commit your changes, or you can commit your changes right here. with a commit message update readme.md. Commit it. Now you realize that the moment you do this, you have changes in your GitHub, yet you don't have it locally in your command line. So what you want to do is to get those changes locally, and the way to do that is to use a command git pull. Remember this command, git pull. That is the command you use to get changes from your origin, which is your GitHub account, into your local systems. When you run this command and enter, you realize that we put all those changes back, and it says that you see there's one change over here. Okay, wonderful. Which means that when we now run git status, it should tell us that we are up to date. So it says your branch is up to date with origin main. This is very important. So now back to our instructions. It says that we should get all the changes of the main branch locally, and we've done that. So it says that we should create a new file up to date at the root of our directory, and in it we should write the git command line used. So let's go do that. So let's clear our screen, and then we are already inside our directory 0x03 git. So now to create a file, we could either use vi or touch, but this time around we are going to write content in the file. So let's use vi, and the file name is up to date. Now when we enter the vi mode, we go into the insert mode, and the command we use to get our changes is git pull. We just write that command in and exit vi. Wonderful. When we have done this, it says that add to git and commit with a message how to be up to date in git. Great. So let's now git add the current directory. You always want to run git status. We see that we have a new file up to date. Now let's commit, git commit with a message how to be up to date in git. Enter. Let me clear my screen, then I'll git push. Awesome. So now back in my GitHub, when I refresh my page, everything I'm doing here should show. You want to enter your directory, and as you can see, we have the file up to date, and when I open up that file, you can see the command used is inside it, which is git pull. Wonderful. When you're able to do this and you check your code, it should check because you have fulfilled all these requirements. Wonderful. So to our task 5, what ALX wants us to do is to create a merge conflict. A merge conflict is when you have different changes in the same file on different branches. So when you try to put those branches together, realize that you're going to have an issue. It's going to raise a warning of a merge conflict. So let's try that out and see what comes up. Collaboration is cool, but not really when you update the same file at the same time. To illustrate that, please merge the branch update script to main. Cool, all my changes will be now part of the main branch, ready to be deployed. Okay, now it says that there's going to be a merge conflict. It says, as you can see, you have conflicts between two branches on the same file. Your goal now is to resolve conflicts by using the version of the branch update script and push the result to the main origin. Wonderful. So now in our terminal, let's clear our screen. We are currently on our main branch. Okay, so if you want to merge two branches, you have to make sure you are on the branch you want to merge to. In this case, which is the main branch. So we are gonna git merge. Then the branch we want to merge into it is update script. Okay, so when you enter, it says that conflict, just as we expected. Auto merging. Then the file in which the conflict is the file ALX, which is inside the bash folder. It says that merge conflict in ALX. Automatic merge failed. Fix conflicts and then commit the result. This is what ALX wants us to do now. So we have to fix this merge conflict, and then the way they want us to do that is to use. Your goal now is to resolve conflicts by using the version of the branch update script. That means that all the two files on the two branches must have the details on the update script branch. So what you usually want to do about that, okay, so go into your GitHub interface, go to the update script branch. Wonderful. Now go into your bash folder. Then the file we are dealing with is ALX because that is what has the merge conflict. Wonderful. So now this is the details that they want us to use. So we need to update all the versions of the files to be just as this one. So just copy this. Then now let's go into our command line. Now we are going to cd into bash. Okay, make sure that you're on the main branch. All right, we're going to cd into bash. Then the file we want to edit is ALX. And we go into this file. As you can see, we have all these things. A lot of things are happening here. Don't worry about all these things that you see. It's just trying to help you correct the merge conflict. Okay, so now we are the head is on the main branch, no problem about that. And then the conflict is happening because the second line says that echo ALX. Then the first line says echo ALX, and then the second line says echo ALX school. But remember that we are trying to get it to look like this, echo ALX school. Okay, So we are going to get rid of the first. Wonderful. So make sure you edit your file to look just like this, just like the version of the ALX file inside your update script branch. Make sure it looks just like this. When you are done, you can exit VI. Now, in our intranet now, it says that at the end, you should have all your work from the branch update script, new file, and 2 updated files, and all latest main commits, which is all these without conflict. So let's just go and try and see if we can push or merge successfully without conflict anymore. While on the main branch, let's git merge update script. It says that we have an error. Merging is not possible because you have unmerged files. Now, when you are coding and you run into errors, do not worry. All you have to do is to make sure you read through the instructions and then follow it, and you can solve your problems. So it says that fix them up in the work tree and then use git add or remove file. Then it says that as appropriate to mark resolution and make a commit. So let's try and commit all our changes. Now, to do that, first you want to git status and see the status of your work. Now, when we run the git status, you see that we have on branch main. It's up to date with the origin. However, we have unmerged paths. Now, the file which is causing the conflict, as we know, is the ALX file. So let's clear our screen and then git add and see what happens. Then let's run git status. Now we have that file added to git. Okay, so let's git commit. Let's fix merge conflict. Let's git push. Now I'm gonna clear my screen and I'm gonna try to git merge one more time. I'm merging with update script branch. Then when I enter, it says already up to date. That's because we pushed and then the conflicts have been resolved. So our branch have the same files or have the same updated files. So we don't have a problem anymore. So basically what you have learned here is that when you have the same file, remember that when you branch, your branch is a replica of the main branch. So when you edit a certain file in one of the branches with those changes not in the main branch file, and then you edit a different set of changes in the same file, you realize that you have the 2 sets of files, the same file with different changes in them. So when you try to merge, you're going to run into a conflict because the GitHub does not know which changes should I take and which one should I keep. So you have to go into the file and then do the changes manually. Take the changes you want and delete the changes you don't want. And then when you are done, you can merge successfully. That is what ALX was trying to teach us here. So it's wonderful. Let's just go straight to our next task. Our final task says that never push too much. It says that create a .gitignore file and define a rule never to push tilde files generated by Emacs. So let's go find out how to do that. Okay, so we are supposed to create the .gitignore file inside the directory we've been working with. So let's go into our terminal and then make sure we are in that directory. Good. So as you can see, we are in the 0x03 git directory. Now to create a gitignore file, you have to just vi or you can touch then .gitignore. Now what this does is that whatever file name you put in a gitignore file will not be pushed to GitHub. It's a very important feature so that let's say you are working in a directory, there are a couple of files which are perhaps package files. You don't really want these files to be pushed to GitHub. Perhaps they are your dependency files. You need them to run your program, but you don't need them in your repo. So what you just do is to put the name of those files inside your .gitignore file. But for this time around, we have been asked to define a rule so that we don't push tilde files generated by Emacs. So to do that, what you just have to do is to bring the tilde symbol and then say that never push files generated by Emacs. And it's as simple as that. So let's exit VI. Wonderful. And it's done. So what you want to do now is to git add the current directory. Like I always say, run git status. So we are about to push our .gitignore file. Then let me clear my screen and git commit -m. So let's say we are defining a rule, define rule not to push Emacs files. Okay. Then let's git push. Awesome. When you have done this, you are done with your project. So just go back into your intranet and check your code and it should check. Please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I have a lot of valuable videos that will be coming your way. Till we meet again, happy coding.